Now, a lot of us get into personal training, nutrition, dietetics, healthcare, because we have an innate desire to help people. Okay? But sometimes in our zeal to help people, we kind of lead them down the wrong path. And as it pertains to nutrition, over the last 100 years or so, we've seen a transformation in how we teach people about nutrition. Okay? For a while, we were all anti-fat. It was stay away from fat. Fat will kill you. Cholesterol is bad. And when we actually did the science, look back and went, okay, that really is pulled up the way we hoped. Okay, we got to watch out for protein. Protein will kill your kidneys. If you have a high protein diet, you're going to die. The science, look at reality again, doesn't seem to hold up very well. Okay, well, we got to, for sure, it's carbs. Stay away from carbs. You eat a carb, you'll just be packing on fat like me. No carbs. And then we look around, there's a whole bunch of civilizations who's predominantly fueled on carbs, and they don't seem to have anywhere near the obesity that North America does. No, we can't really demonize carbs either. Okay, well, honestly, what have we got left? All we have stock calories. It's got to be calories. Calories have to be the problem. There's no other way about it. Okay, so we can accept that. In fact, it supports one of our fundamental laws of physics. First law of thermodynamics, and that just says, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only change form, so we know when it looks at our diet. Calories in have to equal calories out. Simple physics can help people. It works. Come on. Fundamental laws of physics. And so then we think about it, and well, if we have an obesity problem in North America, it must be that we have a problem with our balance. We're somehow out of balance. Okay? So again, we're nutritionists, we're personal trainers, we like helping. So we give people these numbers. A pound of fat contains 3,500 calories. Okay, so if you want to lose fat, we got to create some sort of deficit. We're aiming for 500 calories a day. That seems like a pretty logical number. You do that, of course, a day. In a week, you're going to lose a pound of fat. It's easy. But what happens? Okay, our failure rate when we put people on diets is over 90%. Something for going under this assumption, and we're failing it. A 90% clip, clearly it's not working. Okay, and how badly is it not working? Well, 3 out of 5 of Canadians is over fat, and a quarter of us are obese. Okay, so clearly we have some issues. And yes, BMI is not the best measure, but it's tells part of the picture. So where did we go wrong? Okay, what's wrong with our math? There's 5 key areas where it falls apart. And number 1, health experts are not mathematicians. We're not so good at math, it turns out. So we look at it. Okay, a pound of fat has 3,500 calories. That we accept. We can measure that. It's true. Let's do a little math. But if I'm going to gain 5 pounds of fat in a year, I'd have to have an excess of almost 18,000 calories. If over the year, I have 18,000 calories in excess of what I expend, I will gain 5 pounds of fat every year. What does that boil down to every day? 50 calories. 50 calories is 2.5 strawberries worth of energy. You are off in your energy balance. Every day, by 50 calories, you'll gain 5 pounds of fat in a year. Who here has gained 5 pounds in the last year? Who here is doing it consistently over the past decade? That's 50 pounds. Not too many of us. Who here is counting their calories down to the last gram on a daily basis? Okay, unlikely to happen. But we don't all gain this kind of weight. Now, why is that? Okay, this is some data from Canada. It's tough to find Canadian data, but here it is. And I want you to focus on 3 things. The energy change from 1981 to 1991 basically flatlined. We didn't eat any more calories over that decade, the average Canadian. Let's go to 1991, the year 2001. Each one of us, on average, is now consuming an extra 400 calories each and every day. That's a lot of calories. We saw just by being off by 50 calories a day, we'll gain 5 pounds of fat. But what happens? Well, let's look at it. Okay, in that decade, when we had that overconsumption of 400 calories per day, and there's no evidence to suggest that Canadians were wildly more accurate, so we're not balancing it out by being more accurate. Okay, men on average gained 2 kilograms over the decade, not in a year, in a decade. Women, no real change. That was 400 more calories. Let's go back a decade. Okay, so we clearly see that Canadians got fatter from the 80s into the 90s. So that was during that decade where average consumption didn't change. We had the same total number of calories. But we got fatter. Then in the decade where calories went up drastically, there was a minimal change in average body weight. What's going on? Okay. Reason number 2, we fail. Okay, our metabolism is much smarter than we are. And this is a study done in chimpanzees, but pretty reflective for humans. We're pretty close. What I want you to focus on again, we take these chimpanzees, we reduce their calories by 30%. Okay, that's a pretty big reduction in calories. What do we see? After 4 weeks on that diet, they don't lose any body weight. 30% reduction, that's 30 calories lost out. We can't get these monkeys to lose weight. Why is that? Well, part of the reason why is you are going to spontaneously reduce how active you are. You put less fuel in, you stop moving. Metabolism slows down. Your body can be smart like that. Okay? It's not going to let you kill yourself. We are not designed to diet as a species. Okay? We have several hormonal systems. One in particular is governed by leptin. Okay? When it senses an increase in the fat cells, leptin is increased in our body, and that cues us to decrease our food intake, increase our physical activity. So we're supposed to have this system that when we put on a few extra pounds, we have a system in place to help us take it off. Flip it around. We take some pounds off, and our body can tell us, well, I'm going to do something to make you put it back on. Okay? Unfortunately, we're a lot better at overriding this side of the system than we are at this one. Problem number 3, when we start looking at it, we have changed when we are active as a species. Think back 100 years. When would we have had our bedtimes? When it got dark. So probably on average by 9 o'clock. Most nights we would have been asleep. When would we have gotten up? 6-ish? Okay, so 9 hours sleep, pretty consistent every night. Who here went to bed at 9 o'clock last night? Show of hands. Okay, I got maybe 5, 6 people. Okay. Who here went to bed at 12 p.m. or later? Okay, so all of a sudden we're shifting when we're awake, when we're asleep. Let's just take a little study done on some mice. And mice are nocturnal, so they're normally going to be active and eating during the nighttime hours. So when you feed them during the dark, over 6 weeks, which is a long time in mouse years, they gain X amount of weight. If you force feed them during their light hours when they're supposed to be asleep, and again, this is the same total amount of calories, all of a sudden they gain 50% more body weight. Same total amount of calories. So again, if we start shifting out of our natural circadian rhythm with when we're supposed to be sleeping, when we're supposed to be putting fuel in, bad things start to happen, irrespective of the calorie count. Another problem for individuals. Okay? We know that people respond differently, but we kind of refuse to acknowledge it. And here we have 2 groups of people. One group is insulin sensitive, so they're responsive with insulin. The other group is insulin resistant. Okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to put these 2 groups on a diet. We're going to give half the insulin sensitive people a high carb diet, the other half of the insulin sensitive group gets a low carb diet, and flip it around, insulin resistant. Half of them is going to go on a high carb diet, half of them will go on a low carb diet. What do we see? Again, same total amount of calories. And the people who are insulin sensitive, okay, they do way better on a high carb diet. They lose twice as much body weight. Flip it around. If you're insulin resistant, again, way more body fat loss. If you're insensitive, you have to consume the low carb, high fat diet. We know that there are these patterns that show up in people, and the responses to food vary quite a lot. But we haven't aligned our recommendations to reflect that, which is why we continue to struggle on a grand scale. And of course you could argue, well, maybe these people were the lean people, and lean people have better carb tolerance, yeah, we can buy that. And these guys, the people who are over fat, no, these are both groups of over fat individuals. So just because you're over fat doesn't mean you have poor carb tolerance. Just because you're lean doesn't mean you have good carb tolerance. Okay, we have to start getting at the individual reasons and responses to food. We expect to kind of decrease some of these widespread problems with excess body fat.